The transformation that we are now in the middle of has been an intergenerational lightworking transformational process. And if you've looked at Dolores Cannon's work, you know that she talks about the 3 waves of volunteers to the planet: the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. And so in today's conversation, we're having a conversation with a first waver, Reverend Janice Hope Gorman from the Interfaith Center, and Melissa Ketchum, the second wave worker, who is also at the Hope Interfaith Center. And so we're looking forward to this conversation. We hope that you join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the fire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves and what we came here for and what we're doing here on planet Earth. And I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird. I love having these conversations week after week and bringing my friends on the show to have these deep spiritual conversations with me. This might be one of the few places that you get this kind of conversation in your life. And so I honor that you come here and you listen and you partake and you participate. And of course, I always welcome your comments and your feedback. And we've been in a wild time. So I think this is the culmination of wildness. I can't imagine it any wilder. But it has gotten wild. And there's been some really big shifts in the matrix, so to speak. Some dismantling, a lot of transparency. And some of that transparency, what I've been asking for, and I think everybody listening, your heart is saying, I'd like transparency, I'd like honesty, I'd like to know the state of things, I want to know the truth, show me the truth. I want to live from truth. I want to live from love. I want to live in harmony. And then all of our prayers lead to this experience of horror, like just absolute horror with some of the things that we're witnessing, and fear and anxiety and panic and grief, really deep grief. And confusion. Like, I don't understand how this idea matches with this totally polar opposite idea, because in my heart, it doesn't. And I think that many of us are doing this deep discernment process inside of ourselves, like what truly matters to you, what truly matters inside your deepest heart, and what is the truth from that place. And then a lot of forgiveness work. A lot of forgiving what you're seeing out there and honoring it and doing our best to not judge. And it's putting all of our tools to the test. Like every single tool in the tool bag has been pulled out, at least in my life. Like, oops, there's a non-engagement one. Let me pull that one out. Oh, here's non-judgment. Okay, let's pull that one out. Oh, what do I really think is going on? Let me only believe 10% of what I think. Thank you, Don Miguel Ruiz, for that great book on discernment, The Fifth Agreement. And so we're getting this opportunity now. And it can feel like that moment in the Harrison Ford movie where they got a hold of the ark, and then Harrison Ford told his person, don't look at it, just keep your eyes totally shut. And then this maelstrom of all of these weird stuff comes out that actually like just melts the guy's face who's staring right at it. And I feel like we're kind of in one of those moments right now. I'm just saying, it feels like that. And we're called up to witness from love, to witness from compassion, and not let it completely take away everything we've learned, everything we say we are, everything we practice. And so we're going to have a great conversation today. I brought my friend, the Reverend Janice Hope Gorman, with us. I just love everything about this woman. She is a first waver. She and I have had many conversations in her group and on our podcast about the, the sort of passing of the baton, between the first wave people that came to the planet to help and the second wave people that came to the planet to help. And I thought it would be a really good idea to have this conversation today to bring in some wisdom from Hope on all of this. And she's the director and founder of the Hope Interfaith Center, where she facilitates classes, seminars, and workshops. And her love is to mentor women because the time has come to pass that baton, right? That holder of light to the next generation. And we are on the way to the golden age. Boy, some moments I know we're not sure that's really what's happening, but we have to hold that hope, that faith, that trust that is exactly what's happening right now. And so we're going to have this beautiful conversation. And not only do we have Hope today, but we have Melissa Ketchum, who is Hope's second wave person that's getting this baton passed. And so Melissa's here with us too. So it's really great to have you both on the show. And I guess I'd like to, what I'd like to do is for everyone who's really interested in the backstory, Hope's backstory and how she got started. There's another episode of Soul Nectar Show, and I'm going to put a link to the YouTube version so you guys can check it out and get all of that, because I really want to dive in today. So what I want to do is open it up to you. What is your heart saying? Hope, Melissa, whoever wants to go first, what are you feeling? I just said a lot, and we've been talking a little bit before the show. What's just on your heart to bring forward right now to get this conversation started?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for having us on your show, on your wonderful show, because Kerri is so honest and real and really, I don't want to say the word qualified, but she's very qualified to bring forth new messages and information. And so we did have a little talk before we started taping and doing this show. As a first waver, after 38 years, I've been doing this 38 years, I'm almost 71 years old, that just like many of you, I'm sure you think oh my God, just like Kerri said, what's going on? Where's that golden age? I thought that was going to come 10 years ago and we're still on. So I want to congratulate everyone who's still hanging in there, doing their work, and so on and so forth. But so just like you, Kerri, I sometimes stumble into an energetic field because I can trip and I stumble into an energetic field of being dismayed. I'm trying to use neutral words, I guess, dismayed, and sometimes very upset about the collective consciousness that's going on the planet. And yet I absolutely know that the women that have come before me, the Harriet Tubmans, the Susan B. Anthony's, they never saw the end result of their work. But they started something that has now happened. And they see it in the ethers. But so the first wavers came to really start the domino effect. And I believe all of you first wavers who are listening to this, congratulations. Thank you for hanging in there.
Thank you for all you did. Now we see why you did it. Hi. Thanks.
And now the domino effect is indeed, just as you said, I do believe we're going to see the golden age. But I think that right now it's really, really important for the first wavers to find their mentees and find the right second wavers that are integral, that are in compassion, that follow their heart, that know their authenticity, that have extreme, wonderful internal powers. And Melissa fits all of those and so much more. And so in order for me to do this for 38 years, I had to be very passionate and very dedicated. And that's what Melissa has. So I'm going to pass it on to, so how do you feel about when the dominoes now are falling and they're now coming to your energetic field.
That's interesting because as I was kind of visualizing, I felt kind of like the weight of that, but also a relief in like what has already been created. Because in our community, you know, we're in Mankato, Minnesota. It's a smaller town, it's Midwest, and Hope has really paved the way in our community for people like myself and others to have a space to explore deeper meaning and truth. And I just like honor that process and respect that process because I can imagine how much bravery that had took to be the one to pave the way. And what an honor to continue that legacy. Because we're seeing here now at the center, you know, there are so many people that are coming, I always say, coming out of the woodwork, different healers, energy workers, people who are drawn to this ancient wisdom and they're seeking truth within themselves. So I feel that this is a big responsibility, but it's also what I mean, I feel called to, and I've been working and mentoring under Hope for, well, since 2016, but working closely with her in the office.
In this lifetime.
And yeah, in this lifetime, exactly. And so, you know, I feel that I've been preparing myself for many, many years to come to this place. And what I think is really valuable too about Hope as a mentor is that, you know, she understands herself and she moves through life with integrity and awareness. And as a mentee, that gives me that space to explore my truth from somebody who I, you know, respect and honor and admire and, you know, aspire to be like in that sense. So, yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive, but quite frankly, like my whole life, I knew somewhere deep within me that I would be alive to experience what I call the Great Awakening. Some people call it Christ consciousness. It comes in different forms, but I knew very young that I would be here to participate in that. And I'm glad that I'm here for it, even though, you know, some days it gets really human. It gets really challenging and it brings us to our knees and can break us down. But I think this is a period of reclaiming our power and understanding that we are sovereign beings and to create from that God self, I think is the biggest gift that we can offer this experience collectively.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like I mean, it's happening in the way it needs to happen, right? So there's like as the light comes in, there's more transparency, and with more transparency, we see the shadows. Right? And we can't hide them anymore. They just want to be birthed. Like they just want to be revealed. Like even it's so funny, like there's so many themes going on in the society right now. I'm paying attention to social media and some of the political stuff, and I'm like watching it, you know, and then bringing it back in myself and doing some transmutation work. It's like transmute, alchemize, and bring it back to truth, bring it back to light. And it's so interesting how people who would like be sort of painted as a quote villains, you know, in the old story are like with their dastardly deeds and their plans of mass domination are like literally openly talking about it, right? In podcasts and out there sharing their master plan. Like, it's just like, here's my master plan for how I'm going to take over everything. And they can't hide it. Like they want you to know that they're going to do that or they're trying to. And it's just like, whoa, like that's the stuff that used to be hidden.
Yeah.
But it's not hidden anymore. And then there's like this moment of, wait a second, like we know as spiritual leaders that we're no longer playing on the triangle of disempowerment. So am I a victim to it? Is there a part of me that feels victimized? What do I do with that part? How do I hold that part? Right? It's like we have this all levels, all areas of life ability to take what we're perceiving in the outer world and run it through the filter of what in me is a matching piece to what I'm seeing that can be healed and reclaimed, or like what in me is colluding with that story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all have to ask that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm going to go back to Christina Rose because I honor all of my teachers. But Christina Rose had said a long time ago, Janice, or Hope, you're not a 25-watt light bulb. You are a 250-watt light bulb. Then you grow bigger, you're a 350-watt light bulb. And so our level of consciousness or our words or our actions are massive. They can create massive change and difference right now. And so if we're not really conscious and if we're not really mindful, if we're not really awake, does this thought or feeling or actions or words, is this putting more weight on the reality that we want to absolutely release? Or take this enormous frequency and vibration of our consciousness, and because you're all 250,000-watt light bulbs, as you're turning on more and more and more and more, is that you can take that level of consciousness and create a whole new grand gray golden era. And that's what the Hopi Indians talked about. That's what the ancient indigenous mothers talked about in Hawaii. I spent much time in Hawaii and the ancient mothers there, on the land in physical form and not in physical form. They taught me how to use this level of consciousness in this energetic field to create the energy of something new. And again, we just must wake up, and we must use our discernment and kind of being personally responsible of how I'm going to use my energy today.
Mm-hmm.
Kerri, that you talked to my 5D class, and one of the things in the book that we are working with in the 5D is saying tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up in my 5D energy, and so is everybody else. Yay. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up. And then so I walk through the day. I'm going to stay in my 5D energy all this day. That's my spiritual practice, knowing my level of consciousness is called forth from my guides and holy ones and ancestors to be part of that Hopi prophecy, to move it into the light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the work. And another way of looking at that, I am also a student of the guides with Paul Selig. I've done most of his audiobooks. And the recommendation there is just lift everything to the upper world. Like, bring yourself to the upper room and then lift everything to the upper room. Everything I see before me will be reknown, rearticulated in the upper room, right? So there's like that. And like, there's kind of a tendency to not want to look, right? So first I want to say to everybody listening, I honor if you're like, listen, all I can do to maintain this 5D energy is be in my own space. Like I literally, if I'm not in my own space, I'm going to be thrown out and I can't maintain it. So I got to just focus on 5D. Cool. No judgment. If you're able to, really, if you're able to bring some attention, right, to some of these things that are going on, even just like 15 minutes of doom scrolling, just like, okay, what's going on in the collective? Picking up those vibes, I'm a 12th house Scorpio, so I'm deep Scorpio processor, right? So part of my function, maybe not everybody's function, but part of my function is to witness that stuff. And then in the Karo Nation, they call it Mikwi Hucha. So that it means digest the Hucha. It means like restore it all into Aini, back to Sami, to light. And so I've been doing that, but it's delicate balance, because it can really pig pile, like,
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
it can pig pile, on you. And so, then you're underneath a whole mass of wriggling pigs, like, okay, Mikwahucha. And so then you got to find your sanity again. So my personal good friend is tobacco right now, but not everybody's going to work with the sacred medicine of tobacco if you haven't been initiated, but there's other tools, right? So how are you guys with this? Because some people say like, don't look at it, just pretend it's not there and just focus on building what you're going to build. Part of me feels like that's a disconnect with the body and your planet. And this, and then there's some people who are like, well, politics has nothing to do with being spiritual. And I disagree. I feel like you're in a body on a planet in a country that has a government and you're part of it. So therefore it's part of being spiritual. So what are your thoughts about all this? Like, there's so many ways to go with this, but what are your personal thoughts about it?
Into that one?
Yeah, just kind of like on the day-to-day processing and awareness around what's happening. I teach manifestation, and so I believe every single one of us, we are master manifestors. We are manifesting every single moment, every single day. And that's why, to look at this, what's coming up in our reality with honesty, with that compassion, with that, I call it like the higher perspective, the sacred observer. Become the sacred observer to your humanly experience, because a lot of us are tapped in, turned on, tuned up right now. We are connected. We do have the answers within. So taking that time to just see how we're creating from, because that density that's stored in the body, that trauma, that anger, we know it will attract the situations that match that vibration to heal, to grow us. And I think all of it is a gift in our favor. It's just some days it gets to be a lot. It really does, on top of living and working and just being a human being. But I think that's where the most important work is that we can do, is to dive into, some people call it the shadow aspects of what we're creating. Diving into that area to heal and liberate. Liberate's been my big word, like a liberation of that density within your body. Is just such a beautiful process, and it comes in different ways for everybody. We like the body keeps the score. I really believe that. And like for me, it's been just movement, Pilates, taking time to dance and to express, and to really believe that I have the ability, we have the ability to, as you said, alchemize and transmute it, to work with it, to find those gold nuggets and that silver lining of awareness that brings us to that higher state of awareness, the 5D. It's, yeah, collectively, there are a lot of people that are, with the energy of this new year. It's a 9-year. There's a lot of energy of necessary endings that lead to new beginnings. I think the best thing in that process is surrender, 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 and allow.
Yeah, and there's some slipperiness, right, with all this witnessing. And this year's energy, if we have noticed, brings up a lot of assertiveness. It's like an assertive energy. So like you can work with that assertive energy to shore up any places where you haven't been as assertive as you need to be, where you really haven't stood up and said something. And the thing about first waivers is you had to do that. So talk a little bit about speaking up and standing your ground and being love, like Hope, because that was like the whole first wave were the ones who sat in the, with Martin Luther King and the Freedom Riders. They sat on the benches. They prepared them for being attacked, and that they would not be violent, that they would show up with love even when others are being aggressive. And that's something that your generation, that the first waivers had to move through. We haven't had as much of that in the second wave. It has been diluted from its former concentration. How would you recommend to tell us to move forward with love?
My definition of integrity is the courage to do what's right. That's my definition. The courage to do what's right and ethical and moral and decent and inclusive and loving and kind. So when you're in a collective consciousness that doesn't hold integrity, we do, the first waivers really had to continue. I'm going to be who I am. I believe in this, and so on and so forth. As these dominoes start moving over, and all of you, I call you kids with dignity and respect because you're kids to me. It's still about having the courage to be authentically who you are. I also believe invoking the goddess. I know that sweet Melissa, because she's not only a mentor, she learns from me. So I said, when you feel weak, just invoke the goddess Isis and allow her to have the enbrainment where she just comes into your field of energy. She is absorbed in all of your body parts, and then feel her strength. And so she would practice that, and she would literally feel the goddess Isis come in. So I've taken many, many young women and old women and medium-sized women and all to pilgrimages to invoke and invite the goddess energy into them. And so that you're still going to need that strength. And luckily, we don't have to do it alone. We can call in these avataric energies, these goddess energies, these females that, I stand on some pretty strong shoulders of women who've come before me. And I thank those women every single day. And because I so recognize, I can always cry when I think about it, their journey, that I knew I wanted to have the shoulders for my young children and my children and my grandchildren and the collective of goddesses and women that are coming up. Because women are holding a certain level of consciousness that is very, very powerful at this time, very loving. I just would welcome you to tell a little bit of that story about the blue jay and the dove, because I think that that's happening right now. But I think that we need to have that goddess power of speaking up and not shrinking. Don't shrink. You're not shrinking violets. You're beautiful beings of white light that are here right now. I think the Quran talks about when there's more women on the planet, that you will see a collective change. And at this moment in time, there's 46% of the population upon this planet are women. Yay.
Yeah,
And
very
I'm
strong.
married.
And some of us are carrying huge goddess energy, so it doesn't really matter numbers of people. It's
Yes.
like, talk about light bulbs. So, yeah, I want to say, like, for everybody watching this that have been following me for a while, like, I wasn't always so self-loving, so confident, so outspoken. I wasn't always this way. And in my former relationship, I would avoid conflict. I basically was a conflict avoider. I was a total pleaser. I would just try to please him and get around it and just like work around the system, to get my needs met, and just like try to placate and kind of move around, right? And I never wanted the confrontation. That drove my mom crazy because she was a first waver. And she was like, I did not send you to Smith College so you could be a wimp. Like, I did not invest all that money so you could be a wimp. I was like, ugh. So, but I was like, well, I have to pick my battles, because that was my perspective in that relationship. And it was a lot of blue jay energy. So, blue jay energy, if you've ever been around a blue jay, they're very territorial. They're very suspicious. And if you get too close and they don't trust you, they'll literally attack your head. And in the second wave book, I talk about this blue jay attacking my head, because I was sitting underneath the tree where I always sit to pray. And apparently it had made its nest there. And it was like, wait a second, you're in my spot. I'm like, no, I had to actually swat at it, to get it to go away. So that blue jay energy was something that, because I had been such a doormat, and because I hadn't spoken my truth, and I had avoided conflict, and I had tried to just keep the peace by like suppressing myself and giving up on what was important to me, I needed blue jay medicine. And so my mom has tons of blue jay energy. She's very blue jay. And in my heart of hearts, I've always been dove, but I didn't, You know, you can't just have peace without the conflict. That's the thing. The conflict in the gene keys, this is the 6, and I have it in my Pearl of Peace, actually, quite funny. And the conflict is the thing you got to move through, like you were saying. But you move through it with peace, by being peace. You move through the conflict. You don't avoid the conflict. You move through it. You move through it in a diplomatic way, because diplomacy is the middle way. So there's like, it's taken me a lifetime, you know, to get to this place where standing my ground is important. And now that I don't take no guff, I don't need to terrify people, you know, in order to get them out of my way, right? Or don't violate my boundaries, or be afraid of violating my boundaries. I have been like that for a while in my journey, right? When I finally got my Blue Jay energy. So I think that there's a wide spectrum for women to tap into this, my own story. Like, where do you fit in? Where do you fit into the story I just shared? Where are you on your journey? Are you still trying to keep the peace and trying to hope that this person that you're with, or this government that you're with, is going to be kind to you, and trying to find any way to just eke along, you know, within this structure because you've been told you have to? Or are you so Blue Jay that you're ready to tear the whole thing down, kick the door in, you know, punch somebody? So I've also seen, I want to say in the last few weeks, my husband has been, he's a gun owner and he's a martial artist. And so he believes in defense, right? He believes if you don't have that as an avenue, then, and he's always wanted me to do it. And I just, but I did actually do it, and I got over my resistance to it. But what I noticed is there's a lot of women going to the gun range, learning how to use a gun. So there's some empowerment happening there in terms of getting over the fear of doing that. But I don't think that's the end result. That can't be, because violence is never the answer. So it's like we've got, it almost seems like we have to move through these stages of personal development to try on like different things, to try on and get our own groove going on inside of ourselves, right? As to like how we want to show up in the world, how we want to meet this challenge. And it probably has something to do with our human design and our gene keys, which, you know, I go take a look. But that seems to me like what it is. But I do feel like it is the shadow of conflict in the larger sense, because in that gene key, they talk about the deepest division is masculine, feminine. So, and that seems to be what we're mostly working on right now. It seems to be, to me, at least in the US, when I look around the world, most of these big conflicts seem to be around gender and what is gender. And then here's like all of this beautiful second wavers and third wavers coming in saying, I'm not any gender, or I don't like that gender. I'm going to go over to this gender, or I'm a they, stop calling me a gender. And then that whole conversation is so threatening to the system, you know? And it's because why? Because the matrix needs us to be in contrast in order for it to survive.
Very true.
The other thing that I would tell young women too is the first waivers is, you know, we called ourselves wild and wise and kind of witch energy, where we sparkle and know how to do magic. And we're sage as well. So there are 4 strong archetypes that women can hang on to and adopt and bring forth. So I am a spiritual warrior. Ask my husband of 40 years, he'll tell you I'm a spiritual warrior. But I'm also have just this wild, loving, compassionate sage energy as well. And I pull the sage up when I need to pull that sage up. And I pull the wild woman that comes out of me, as well as the spiritual warrior that needs to come out of me at times. And so I have these 4 archetypes that I kind of lean into, or they lean into me. And it's a good mixture. It works well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I see you saying is it's not necessarily an either or, it's kind of like both and, you know, so there's this way that, you know, the thing that happened with the Blue Jay on my porch that always attacks me. And then the thing with I had this dove on the other side that was like just being a dove, you know, being peaceful, being loving, being a dove, being quiet and still, inching its way over. And the blue jay, I'm thinking anytime is going to attack the crap out of that thing. And then it just flew off.
Mhm.
And then the dove strutted down the entire railing and then flew and got a drink. It's like, cool. So, but there's this energy in dove that doesn't really fight anything. It just goes, I'm here. I'm like present, right? I'm full. But that doesn't mean that the blue jay is wrong, because all of it exists at the same time. Like they're all like these archetypes, every single animal archetype and all the archetypes you mentioned, they all exist in Mother Nature in this realm. So they all play a part.
Yes, yes. We had an incident here where a gentleman, I shouldn't even call him a gentleman, but a guy came in and he did something rude to Melissa. Unacceptable is unacceptable to me. My blue jay came out. I mean, I was calm, but my blue jay came out and it said, you need to leave and he said, are you throwing me out of the church? Yeah, I'm throwing, this is the first time I've ever been thrown out of the church. Well, congratulations. There's always first to something, but you need to leave this building and off of this lawn.
Yeah.
And he did.
And quite honestly, our safety was
Totally
was threatened, and you did it in a stern and powerful way, but there was nothing like unkind about what was happening. It was, this is you've crossed the line. So this is what happens. I think boundaries around our time and energy in this work is so valuable, so important.
And what an amazing rewire, you know, of in an environment that's traditionally supported, you know, a church has traditionally been rooted in masculine need and perspective, as well as, oh, by the way, high tech and government too. A lot of places, right? And just saying, if you take a look, only because I just watched this interview where they were talking about how tech billionaires are not used to anybody saying no.
Yeah.
Or I disagree, or no, that's not how this works. They're just not used to getting that feedback. And so, yeah, there's this, in the masculine feminine conversation, there's this pushback. There's like, no. And that's actually key, because the indigenous women has said for a really long time, for generations, right? Like, why don't you say no? Because when we say no, our men listen.
yes.
When we say no, they stop doing what they're doing. But there's been such a deep indoctrination in our particular Western culture that women should be pretty pleasing and polite and not be assertive, confident, and oppose masculine perspectives.
Yep. And that does us such a disservice as, you know, people who come into partnership or just collectively on the planet who, you know, I see things in that yin and yang energy, that masculine and feminine that we all hold within us. And, you know, it's in our best interest and integrity to evolve together in that. And when, you know, that's why I appreciate having the guidance of Hope, somebody who sees themselves, who can evolve and grow, can check themselves. But it's hard to deal with people in your reality who don't have that awareness or ability to balance and see things from those perspectives.
Yeah, and it's especially important as a mother, right? I mean, and as a mother archetype, we must be willing to be in equal partnership with our counterpart, right? Whatever that is. Because I don't want to say it's a man, because maybe it's not. There could be two moms, you know. I don't want to say that. But when we're standing fully in our own, that, you know, you were saying that Isis comes in. There's also a mother goddess energy that comes in, you know, and when we allow ourselves to be full of that frequency has very different guidance than the frequency or the sort of ideas in our minds based on our conditioning. And a lot of times it'll call us up to do something really uncomfortable, like do what you did, Hope. Like you stood up and you put a boundary, and that was the right thing to do. And I'm sure it was not comfortable for anybody that that was what needed to happen in that moment.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it gets more, the more you practice it,
Does
it
it?
yes, it gets more and more and more comfortable. I talk to all of my wonderful, wonderful friends who are 70 and older, and we do sit around saying, "Oh, aren't you glad you're 70?"
Because, yeah, because by you just don't care anymore, right? Like you're just like,
Oh,
get it.
we are who we are, who we are. We're strong women, we're powerful women. And we don't feel what we felt, but it took us practice.
Hmm.
Because the woman that I was in my first marriage, I had another marriage, just as you did, and I was a doormat in that marriage, and it didn't work, obviously, because I was pounced on, and I was quiet. I would not raise a little finger. I would do what he wanted me to do and look how he wanted me to look and all that bullshit that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then luckily we got divorced, and I was able to find, because then energetically, as you will teach your clients and students, energetically, I went to a woman called Diana Gabriel who just empowered the heck out of me. And then I radiated a certain energy, and then I got my man. The
Yeah.
man who could very much stand with me, not in front of me, but beside me and in my auric field, and not be bothered by who I was.
And
Mm-hmm.
not
So,
only not be bothered, but like celebrate it. Like, yeah.
correct, correct.
And that's the divine masculine. The divine masculine's like, bring it on, like don't turn it down, turn it up. That's the
Yes.
phase we have to.
Personal healing thing needs to happen in order to radiate that type of energy.
Yeah.
And
And those are beautiful soul contracts that are, that we create before we incarnate here to give us those lessons. Hope experienced that a while back. I'm going through that right now with a personal transformation that was kind of sprung forth through a relationship. And, there's a lot of growth in that. But I think what I've learned is what you learned in it. It's like, speak up for ourselves, like know our needs and wants and, follow through on that. And it's been empowering to come out the other side of situations like that. Um, but I think it's all in perfect timing for what's happening and what's
mhm.
unfolding within my life and within the collective. It's, the feminine is rising and it's a beautiful time to be here to see it.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. And so keep shining, right? Like keep shining. And I know you guys offer retreats and you offer all kinds of classes and ways to support people to be in community, because when we're in community, we have more confidence because we have other people sort of going through the same process, right? And talking the same language and having these conversations, a safe space to say what's really going on while you practice to change your narrative, right? To bring in more potential. And also people that get it when you say you've had some crazy mystical experience with Isis. Like, we need spaces like that. So I know that you offer spaces like that. So want to tell us a little bit about what you guys are all lit up about right now in the Interfaith Center.
Yeah, we have some exciting changes and evolution happening within the center, as Hope kind of steps back and just allows some of us, individuals, women, second waivers to come in and to continue the legacy of what's been created. We were having people come in and do sound healings, qigong, new healers coming in to initiate drum circles. We always have a Sunday service. It's on the second Sunday of the month, and that is a virtual option and in person. And, I do a class on the first Monday of the month called Manifesting Miracles and just teaching people about manifestation and the art of deliberate creation. And Hope has tons of groups, support groups, and mentorships that she's assisting with. Right now, we're doing a deliberate channeling
Yeah.
mentorship. So we're learning how to channel through with Hope. And yeah, I think there's just really kind of something for everybody, music, personal development, experience, community. We have a lot to offer at our center, I would have to say.
And we did not leave out the men because I have this fantastic men's Zoom group that meets twice a month. And I think we're now in our 5th year. And Melissa knows every time I have that group, I say, oh my God, they just blow my mind. They just, I give them questions to ponder and they come out with some really wonderful words of advice. They are enlightened, they are growing, they are light bulbs, and then what they do is they go out and they talk about this men group to other people. And so it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we're doing really good. We're doing really good. And as I transition out a little bit more, because when I talk to first waivers, we say we're tired.
Your turn.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
We're tired. We're tired.
That's what my mom says. My mom's like 80 and she's like, I never thought I would see all of this happening at 80. It was supposed to be the golden age. And like,
Yeah.
my goodness, I'm tired. And it's like, yeah, I don't have the energy to go fight this. So yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like, you've left a legacy, we just had a conversation many weeks ago about legacy, right? The last third of your life and leaving that beautiful legacy. And Irene Weinberg came on the show, who's has put together a book called Good to the Last Drop. I mean,
I love it.
how fantastic is that? And so there's like this invitation, right? Like to rewire also what it means to be an older woman, to be an elder, to be a crone, to be a woman who's like got wisdom, who's like left a legacy, and to rewire that whole conversation into look at what we did as a community. And so what do you want to say about that? I mean, what's your greatest sort of celebration for yourself as an elder of what you've created?
I'm proud, I'm happy of who I am. And one of the things is that the Hope Interfaith Center is not in the bricks and mortars of this beautiful, beautiful temple. The essence of all the teachings and teachers and what we've done as we come together is in the essence of each and every individual who has left this place. So I had to come to the conclusion that if, let's say, no one wanted to take over the Hope Interfaith Center, that the legacy still continues on. I don't need to have a building or a bronze head of who I am, or a statue. The legacy lives on in the collective consciousness of the frequency and vibration of love and honesty and power that goes on with women like you and Melissa and every other man or woman that I've ever touched. And then you continue to bring on that legacy. That's what legacy is every person that we've touched to say, I love you, and you're showing compassion to them, and you're sharing them, and you're helping them feel their own empowerment. That's where the legacy lies.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
really beautiful. You've planted so many gardens.
Yes. Yeah. And they're growing wonderfully. They really are growing wonderfully. And so, yeah, so I believe that we must look at the other thing I was telling Melissa. I said a lot of women who have been teachers. I do believe I have heard, I'll just say, put it in my eye. I had heard that there would be a time for the first waivers who've done so much work to release any ego that's around, like, well, I'm a teacher, or I'm the channeler or the intuitive, or to release that and hand the torch over to the next generation that is meant to bring this golden age in. And sometimes what I've seen and heard as women get older, that's a little bit difficult to give up. Because you do get a lot of, Wow, you're good, Hope. You're really good. And you have to release that all because I want to just sleep in.
Let's
Drink
be
coffee.
honest. I want to go to the beach.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I know that my legacy is still out there and blooming, and then handing the torch to Melissa and whoever else comes up that wants to be mentored into doing this type of work because it's so needed. It is still so needed
Mhm.
at this time.
It's so needed. And I like what you're saying about releasing because it's that idea of the pedestal
Yes.
that keeps people out of the knowing that they have all the answers inside themselves. That while teachers are here to guide, right, and to help sort out things and give you some tools and stories to entertain you and help you learn something, but like ultimately you've got to take your own torch and move forward.
Mhm.
And that's what this whole sovereignty thing is about, is bringing everyone to the place that they can walk their lives according to their inner compass and feel guided and supported and on track with their soul's curriculum. Feel like that's the whole point. Yeah, but we have to get out of the way.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And don't you think the second waivers are being downloaded with so much right now? I mean,
So
like,
much.
yeah, so
Mhm.
much is coming in.
It's just like in the body, so it's just like walking. It's a everyday integration right now for me. Integration, embodiment. Mikwe hucha, digest that hucha, dang. And then, transmute, alchemize. Where is it going? What are we creating? That was the old. That's the mulch for the new. What do we want to grow in the garden? We're not going to grow that same pattern. We're going to grow something new.
Mhm.
That takes a lot of courage to grow something new.
It really does. Yeah, a lot of courage and awareness.
Yeah.
And that's why you're my mentee too, is that she doesn't come in here thinking, I got all the answers.
That's a sure sign someone's off
Yeah,
track.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
She's learning and growing and integrating. I can tell that she's getting downloads and she comes back differently every time, and she's integral because she does go to healers and helpers besides me. So that's what the second waivers are doing right now. The really integral second waivers is they don't think they have the tiger by the tail yet. They know that they're a blue jay and they're doing their stuff and becoming the dove.
Becoming the dove.
Yeah.
Becoming the dove.
Part of the alchemical process is being able to see that and recognize that and move through it to help others, of course, to kind of process and help ourselves. But I think some of the best teachers have experienced it fully and completely, and they have those tools to assist, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's really certainty is is one of the markers of like, okay, nope.
Very much
So
so.
if you're learning, if you're the teacher, you also have to learn.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're not done. Nobody's enlightened, you guys. I love how people keep saying that, but like literally nobody on this plane of existence is enlightened right now. We're all working towards it. We're getting closer, but like nobody's enlightened. Maybe somebody's a little closer to the goalpost, but come on, guys. Like, let's just give ourselves some grace. Are we embodied? That's the next question to ask. And are we really embodying our divinity? Are we really embodying our feminine energy? Are we really showing up and speaking truth from a place of compassion? Are we holding sacred witness? Are we doing the work every day? That's like the gold, right? That's the gold piece that we all get to say yes to right now.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's why I love you, Kerri, because you are constantly, every time you're on one of my programs or working with one of my groups and things like that, I get a lot of feedback when you're on.
Oh, yeah.
And because you're very personable and they don't see you ahead of them or in back of them, they see you beside them. And again, that's the sign of a good teacher. and a good helper here upon this planet. And that has been the success where I tell people my struggles that I've had to get over, whatever those struggles might be, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whatever it was, I had to be, or disagreements with my husband. I still talk about those things to help people understand that we're all in the process. We're all walking each other home. I believe that's a Buddhist statement, or what the Buddha said, is that we're all walking each
Yep.
other home.
Yeah, and it keeps me learning and keeps me out of my ego. Because I have to remind myself, Kerri, beginner's mind, beginner's mind. There could be a gold nugget in here if you just take a look. Peel it up, take a look, see what's in there. Don't be so stubborn. So, yeah, good job. Wow, I love this. Well, yes, check out all the workshops and sacred circles and retreats. And I know you guys have beautiful things that you even go like on these beautiful retreats to Egypt and other places. So like, check it out, you guys. Interfaith Center, and I'll put the link in the show notes below, and I'll also put the link to your previous episode, Hope, so people can see that and check you out in your story of how you developed this center, because that's also a really juicy, beautiful story. So check that out too. Are there any parting words before we close the interview?
I just want to tell everybody to keep on keeping on. I know that it's very difficult at this time. And again, as we watch Elon Musk, I'm going to say some words. And as we watch Donald Trump, and if we watch patriarchy throw these big bombs into the pond, causing waves, just remember the collective consciousness again in you. Remember, you're a 250,000 watt light bulb, and that we have bigger bombs of love and compassion and kindness in that collective consciousness. And we are also making waves. We are a tsunami of love. We can be a tsunami of love and compassion and kindness. And I just want everyone to remember that. Just everyone to remember that.
Tsunami of love. Those words that come out of my mouth too. I love that. A tsunami of love, people. Just think about that. Visualize it. Tsunami of love.
Yeah.
Or like a big dog lick up the side of their cheeks.
Yeah. Yes.
Anything else, Melissa, you want to share?
Yeah, I'm just sitting in that energy of the tsunami of love.
Tsunami of love.
Like, I like that. That feels good. That feels good in the body to focus on. Yeah.
See the love, you guys. Tsunami. Not just any love, but like big love.
Big love.
Big love. Beautiful. All right. Well, we're going to close the show, and everybody please like, subscribe, and share out this episode with anybody that you think would benefit from hearing it or watching it. And we appreciate you for doing that and keeping our momentum going. And also, we're going to give you kisses. Would you guys like to help give some Reiki kisses to everybody? We're just going to give some kisses. Here they come, everybody. We love you so much. Thanks for listening to all the very end to get your kisses. Okay, here they come. Love you guys so much. See you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake to show. Take a sip from the drip of the nectar, from the source of who you are.